Alright, we're back with the Mustangs. Going over these oil pan bolts, making sure they're all snugged up. About to throw the K-member in. Got my case of Black Sight gloves here. Ready to get it on. So once that K-member goes up, gonna be getting the H-pipe off and the drive shaft. Get this tranny down. Alright guys, got the K-member back up there. Let's use that trans jack and this other jack. I got a block of wood on there to kind of help stabilize it. And then this side was a little too far back. So towards the back of the K-member, I just got this pry bar. Pried it forward, got the bolts started. So we got the bolt snugged up. So now we can pull this engine bar off and get rolling on dropping the exhaust. Got the exhaust down, got the drive shaft out of there. Came out pretty easy. This trans jack is pretty awesome. Used it to get the H-pipe down, made it super easy. The bolts for the drive shaft were like super finger loose. So good thing we took that thing down. It's not even Loctite on them, so that's not good. But coming along, getting ready to yank that tranny out of there. I took a look at the torque boxes down there too. They actually look like they're in really good shape, so that's good news too. So start pulling everything out the trans, see if we can't get that thing out of there. Alright guys, got the cross member out of there. This trans jack thing is working out perfectly because I don't have Bob power to manhandle this thing out of here like I usually would. So we're about to pull this thing out. Trans out of there. Bell housing. I think it's pretty safe to assume that rear main was just puking oil out. Alright, got the clutch and pressure plate out of there. Got some hot spots on there. Plenty of oil on that plate. Didn't seem like the clutch was really slipping, so I don't know what to think of that. No, I think this car was an automatic that got a 5-speed swap. It's like we got some junkyard grease pencil marks on there. And when I was looking up the VIN, I kept pulling up an automatic car, so this thing was definitely just puking oil all over. So to get this rear main out, clean it up. Got a bunch of bolts from the transmission and bell housing soaking in some super clean. Gonna brush them off, try to get them cleaned up. I'll probably end up chasing them out too. So I'm gonna mask off this tranny and try cleaning this thing up. Already started on the bell housing. Got that cleaned up pretty decently. Probably just going to clean around here, the front and the back, mask off this shifter area, try to cover it up with plastic, and then get this thing wiped off. I just used that Prep All wax and grease remover. It's cleaned around where I want to mask it off. So I'm gonna put some tape around those areas and I'll be able to tape plastic to it. Alright, ended up masking most of it with the tape, but I did put plastic on here and that worked out pretty good for taping to the plastic. Just cut up a plastic bag. So, get this down to the end of the driveway and start degreasing it. Got these parts cleaned up. Transmission turned out really good. Ended up using this brush. So I guess now it's technically brushed aluminum. Probably not. I don't know if I'm going to use that cross member. I got the cross member out of my dad's car when we put that Stifler's one in, so I might just use his old cross member. But I cleaned it up anyways. Figured might as well get the grease off of it. Back at the Mustang again. I think I'm going to end up using this cross member out of my dad's car. Seems like a cross member that came out of the car. The mounts are loose. So still got some more cleaning to do. Getting the bolts cleaned off. Got that rear main seal in there. So I'm gonna try cleaning out where the pilot bearing's at. Try to clean the inside of that pilot bearing, get a little bit of fresh grease in there. You gotta clean up this oil spill. Gonna start cleaning up the flywheel and the pressure plate. I just got some sandpaper. Probably just gonna try using this 320. You know, not gonna get crazy with this. I mean, should probably just get a new clutch, but I think for the time being this will be okay. So first thing I'm gonna do is clean it off with that Prep All wax and grease remover. Get the surface cleaned. Just kind of rough it up with the sandpaper and clean it off again. Should be good to go. Got this stuff cleaned off. It worked out pretty good. Used the 180 grit, and then this block is like 320. Got it cleaned off with that wax and grease remover. Cleaned it up really good. So, ready to get that plate up there and throw the flywheel on. Got the clutch and pressure plate bolted up there. Get that bell housing up there next. That's the bearing retainer that came off the trans. That's obviously wrong. This is supposed to be one solid piece. So ended up getting a new bearing retainer. Got that on there. So should be able to throw the trans up this time. First time we tried putting it in, this thing came apart and just wasn't going up there. So I guess it's a good thing it happened, but kind of irritating because it really sidetracked everything. But what are you gonna do? That's Mustang stuff. Alright guys, this has been quite a colossal amount of BS, but got the trans back in there, the drive shaft's back up in there. So what ended up happening, which ended up costing about 4 days, the old bearing retainer that goes on the transmission was damaged. So I went to a local speed shop and picked up a bearing retainer. They gave me M7050-B, and I didn't realize that was the wrong part. That's actually for the 94, 95 cars. So dash A is for 85 to 93. So I spent a day trying to wrestle the trans in there with the wrong bearing retainer on there. So got that straightened out, got the right one, got that on there. got the trans back up, got the drive shaft in there. So right now, just trying to clean up the ports on the exhaust side of the heads here. Got this side pretty much straightened out. Got that cleaned up, try to get all the material off of there so get a good seal. Cleaned up all the bolts for the exhaust. I just took a wire wheel and I cleaned up around the collector where it mates up, and the mounting flange just cleaned up. Same thing on the other one. This one this passenger side I had to clean up. A bunch of oil was caked on here. So same thing, just went over the mounting flange, got that cleaned up. Got all the mating surfaces de-pooped. So get that passenger side cleaned up, and to blow all this stuff off, I think I'm going to use compressed air and blow out this condenser too. It's kind of, I don't know, probably a good idea to blow it off. And once we get all this cleaned up, we'll be dropping that K-member, sneak these headers back in there, hopefully make some progress today. Chasing out all the header bolts, getting them cleaned up. Got this all blown off and wiped it off with wax and grease remover. Just running chase through all the mounting holes on the cylinder heads. Alright, got the K-member back down. Got the header on the driver's side here. So I just took that drill and the wire brush and cleaned up around the mating surfaces on the H-pipe. Insides on the front here. So to sneak that passenger side header in there. Got the starter back on there. I gotta get the wiring harness pulled over. Alright, I was getting ready to make a video and I realized I didn't really explain some things I should have explained, so I'm gonna go back to what happened with the transmission and this bearing retainer. So that was like July 26th. Finally came to the realization that this thing was broken. That's not good. So that Thursday I called the speed shop and they're like, yeah, you know, we can have one at the end of the day. You know, they said they had the bearing retainer. I was like, okay, cool. I mean, I told the guy I got a 90 Mustang and the T5, and he's like, yeah, we got the part. So I thought, well, I didn't want to go pick up the part at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought I'll just pick it up Friday morning, you know. So I go out there Friday morning. I get the part, and then Friday I didn't really work on the car. I was just trying to kind of recover from all the wrenching. And Saturday I went out to Route 66 and watched the Ford, the NMCA out there. And Sunday was kind of the same deal. Like, I didn't really mess around with much in here. So then Monday I tried getting that trans back up. And I fought that thing for like 3 hours, and I just couldn't understand why I couldn't get back in, you know, get it back in there. And I'm thinking like, I probably just need help or whatever, and then you know, I just kind of called it quits on Monday. So my dad's been coming over like usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that Tuesday he showed up, and we're wrestling with this trans, trying to get it back up in there. And you know, finally I'm like, wait a second, you know, last year changed the clutch in my white car, and I bought the new bearing retainer for that car. So I went on Summit's website and looked at my order, and I compared the part numbers, and that's how I came to the conclusion I had the wrong part. So I call back the place I got the bearing retainer from. And the guy's like, oh yeah, we got that part number. He's like, we got it in stock. So I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, that's great. So you mean at like 2 o'clock on Thursday, I could have drove out there and got this thing instead of waiting, you know, days on end to finally throw this thing in there and then find out that it's wrong. So that kind of turned into a fiasco because, you know, Tuesday morning my dad and I figured out it was the wrong part. Then we had to get the part, you know, get the trans back out from under the car, and you know, I had put RTV on there and all that, so we're trying to peel it off of there and clean it up to take it back. So that killed a lot of time, but at the end of the day we got the right part on there, got the trans up, got the drive shaft in there, and then you know, last time my dad was here we got the headers on here, got both sides done, got the starter back up there. See the starters down there, get the starter back on, headers. I got that clutch cable pretty much hooked up. Just got to do the adjustments on it or whatever. But you know, making progress, kind of going through everything here. Got my little to-do list, and you know, it's been keeping a lot of the parts in the back of the car here. Got them bagged up in plastic bags and all that, so finally starting to make some progress. But it's just funny, you know, I don't know much about the driveline stuff, like it's just not my strong point with these cars. So getting that wrong bearing retainer, and I mean they look almost identical. I mean, I guess part of it was shame on me because you know, there's a difference in length on them, but it is pretty close. I mean, that trans was probably, I don't know, about a 1/4 inch from seating fully in the bell housing. So I just kept thinking like, man, is this thing not splining up? Like, what's stopping this thing from going in? So anyways, that's where that's at. That's the story on the bearing retainer issue. You know, and then doing all this stuff like the headers. I mean, it's just a lot of cleanup work and cleaning up the bolts and trying to get all the oil off everything, but it's coming along. So I have to get the K member back up there and you know, do the little odds and ends here. Get my crank pulley back on, the radiator and fans back in, that intake manifold on there, and then probably the last thing that's going to be irritating is I got to get that. I bought a new steering rack, so I'm going to hook up the rack and, you know, get the lines run for the power steering pump here, and should be ready to fill the fluids and fire this thing up. See what happens with these bearings, the Band-Aid bearings. So yeah, I figured I'd just take some time to give you a better explanation of what actually happened, but this car's been driving me crazy. It's been very exhausting, especially fighting that transmission, but should be worth it to get this thing on the road again. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Sorry I haven't posted videos or been on here answering questions and talking to people. Usually I try to get on there every day. I've just been losing my mind with this car lately, so kind of been taking a little break from YouTube as well. But hopefully, you know, right now it's Friday, so I'm hoping maybe I can get pretty far along today. My dad should be here tomorrow, Saturday, so hopefully, fingers crossed, either Saturday, and if it don't happen Saturday, it should definitely happen Sunday. Get this thing fired up and see what happens. Alright, charging up the battery. It's actually fully charged, so that's ready to go for tomorrow. Got the rack on there, got it hooked up to the power steering pump, started filling the coolant, got some type F trans fluid in that power steering pump. So So tomorrow we're down to, got to get the fans back in, get the intake and all the induction stuff. Got to fill the transmission, get that thing topped off, get all the fluids topped off. I think for the night I'm gonna just kind of lower the back end of the car so that the radiator's sitting higher. I don't know, it's probably a good thing I got this disconnected because it's gonna help. That EGR being open is gonna help you know, work any air bubbles out of the block. So I'll let it sit overnight at an angle. It should help the cooling system burp out. And hopefully tomorrow I'll fire this thing up. Thinking maybe gonna disconnect the coil and disable the fuel pump. Try twisting this thing up, see if we get some oil pressure. But it's coming along. Be really nice to get this thing running at least halfway decent. But even if it runs okay, it's still got a long way to go. Got to make sure that K-member's squared up and get the suspension parts back on there. So I'm sure that's going to be fun times. Alright guys, tomorrow I'll be trying to get this thing started, see what happens.